Hold the level. What level were we given? It is a question no captain should ever ask, especially not while descending blindly through the clouds, and especially not just 18 seconds before crossing paths with a fully loaded Boeing 747. Delhi approach, we saw something to our right, looks like a big fireball, looks like a big explosion. November 12th, 1996. The skies 40 miles west of Delhi, India, erupted in a fireball visible for miles. Two massive commercial jetliners carrying 349 souls from 11 different nations ceased to exist in a fraction of a second. It remains the third deadliest mid-air collision the world has ever seen. But what makes this disaster truly haunting is what caused it. Not a terrorist bomb, not a mechanical failure. It was a catastrophic misunderstanding. How did a cutting-edge Western luxury liner and a Soviet-era military relic end up occupying the exact same point in space and time? On this particular evening, two very different flights were converging on the Indian capital. One was a state-of-the-art luxury liner, returning pilgrims from the holy city of Jeddah. The other was a rugged Soviet-era cargo hauler, converted to carry tourists from the steppes of Kazakhstan. T-minus 2 hours to impact. First, let us step aboard Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 763, a Boeing 747-168B, registration HZ-AIH. She was built in 1982, a seasoned veteran of the skies with over 40,000 hours of flight time, but she was meticulously maintained, having undergone a heavy D-check overhaul just 3 years prior. She was immaculate. In the left seat was a 45-year-old Saudi national captain who had logged nearly 10,000 flying hours, including over 4,300 as a pilot in command. He was a recognized expert on the Boeing 747. Sitting next to him was a 38-year-old American first officer, highly experienced with 7,779 flying hours. These were elite professionals. Flight 763 had arrived in Delhi earlier that day from Jeddah. It was a turnaround flight. They offloaded pilgrims, cleaned the cabin, refueled, and loaded a fresh batch of 289 passengers, many of them Indian expatriates returning to the Middle East for work. With 23 crew members, the total souls on board numbered 312. The departure was routine. At 13:03 UTC, 6:33 p.m. local time, the massive 747 roared down Delhi's runway 28 and lifted off. The air traffic controller cleared them to climb initially to 10,000 feet, and then, just 3 minutes later, gave them the clearance to climb to 14,000 feet. The Saudi captain acknowledged the order calmly. The autopilot was engaged. The aircraft was climbing smoothly, right on track. So far, textbook. Now, let us cross the map to Chimkent, Kazakhstan. This is where the other player in this tragedy begins its journey. Kazakhstan Airlines, Flight 1907. But unlike the Saudi flight, this was not a scheduled passenger service. It was a non-scheduled charter, a cargo plane converted to carry tourists. The man in command was 44-year-old captain. He was a highly experienced first-class pilot with over 9,200 hours. He knew the IL-76 inside out. But there was a crucial detail. Like many Soviet-trained pilots, his understanding of the English language was limited. To overcome this, he delegated a specific, critical job. Enter the 41-year-old radio operator. In Western cockpits, the captain handles the radio, but in Soviet doctrine, the radio operator was a dedicated role. It was radio operator job to speak to air traffic control. He had 1,583 hours of experience, and was the only one on that flight deck with a functional, albeit basic, grasp of English. The rest of the crew were seasoned veterans. The navigator had over 12,700 hours, but none of them were listening to the radio actively. They were relying on the radio operator to translate the world into Russian for them. At 10:25 UTC, Flight 1907 lifts off. On board are 37 people, 10 crew and 27 tourists, mostly businessmen looking for cheap goods in Delhi's markets. They file a flight plan. Their destination is the same as the Saudi plane's origin, Delhi. They are descending into the lion's den. At 13:04:55 UTC, the Kazakh aircraft makes its first contact with Delhi approach. They are passing 23,000 feet, 74 miles out. The controller issues the mandatory clearance. The radio operator acknowledges. He repeats the number, 150. But then he turns to the navigator and asks in Russian, "That is 4,570 meters, correct?" The navigator confirms. The captain nods. They begin their descent. At this moment, the Saudi Boeing is climbing up to 140. The Kazakh YML-76 is descending down to 150. If both maintain their assigned levels, they will pass 40 miles west of Delhi with exactly 1,000 feet of vertical separation, the international standard. It's a routine crossing. The controller has done his job. But something is about to break the chain of command. The co-pilot is about to make a fatal assumption, and the captain, lost in his own thoughts, won't stop him. We rejoin the crew of Kazakh Flight 1907 at 13:08:44 UTC. They are descending through 16,500 feet, still 500 feet above their assigned level of 150. The radio operator, Igor Rep, is hunched over his radio panel, straining to hear the controller through the static. A TC transmission to Saudi. Saudi 763, maintain flight level 140, standby for higher. Saudi response. Saudi 763, maintain 140. At this exact moment, the Saudi Boeing acknowledges its clearance to hold at 14,000 feet. This transmission is broadcast on the same frequency. Everyone can hear it. The Kazakh crew, in theory, should be listening. But here is the problem. The co-pilot is task-saturated. He is managing the aircraft's descent, scanning his instruments, and only half listening to the radio chatter. He hears the controller say, level 140, but he misses the context. In his mind, the controller is clearing him to descend further. He doesn't hear the call sign, Saudi 763. He doesn't realize that instruction was for the other plane. He simply reaches down and resets the autopilot's altitude selector from 150 down to 140. In a Western cockpit, the non-flying pilot or the navigator would call out a descent check to confirm the clearance. But on this flight, there is no checklist, there is no challenge and response. The autopilot engages its new target. The IL-76 begins its fatal descent through 15,000 feet. The captain, Cherepanov, is staring out the window. He doesn't intervene. The navigator is plotting their position. The flight engineer is monitoring engine temperatures. Nobody questions the co-pilot. The chain of command has failed. Meanwhile, at 13:08:59, the radio operator makes his first critical mistake. The controller asks for his position. He responds, Kazakh 1907, now reached 150, 46 miles from Delta Papa November, radial 270. But the flight data recorder tells a different story. The aircraft is actually at 16,439 feet, still descending. He has reported prematurely. He hasn't checked his instruments. This is casualness. This is a lack of discipline. Kazakh 1907 now reached 150. The controller doesn't question the report. He trusts the pilot. He then issues the warning that was meant to save them. Roger, maintain flight level 150. Identified traffic 12 o'clock, reciprocal. Saudia Boeing 747 at 10 miles, level 140. Report if in sight. But a lingering question haunted the investigation. Why wasn't the Saudi Boeing given the same warning? The answer lies in the rulebook. The controller had assigned a standard 1,000-foot vertical separation. Under international ICAO procedures, since they were separated vertically, passing traffic information to either aircraft was actually not required. The controller only warned the Kazakh plane as an extra non-essential precaution, a habit developed because Delhi ATC knew that CIS crews frequently struggled to comprehend English instructions. The radio operator takes unusually long to respond. He is struggling to understand the controller's accent. His reply at 13:09:41 is, now looking 1907. This is the last transmission from the Kazakh aircraft to ATC. At 13:09:57, 18 seconds before impact, he shouts in Russian, hold the level. But it's a generic warning. He doesn't specify which level. The captain looks up, confused. 2 seconds later, the pilot in command, Alexander Cherepanov, the man with 9,200 hours of flight time, asks a question that should never be asked in an emergency. What level were we given? This is the ultimate failure of crew resource management. The flight engineer mutters the word maintain, but he doesn't say maintain what. He assumes the co-pilot knows. The cockpit is descending into chaos. 11 seconds to go. The captain finally takes action. He disengages the autopilot. He takes manual control. He tells the flight engineer to advance the throttles, to accelerate, to try to climb back to 150. On the Saudi 747 at 14,000 feet, they see nothing. They are in a cloud layer, but the radar altimeter would have been screaming. There is no time to react. Back to the IL-76, the radio operator finally understands the full horror of the situation. He screams, "Get to 150, because on the 140, that one up." The sentence is cut off. The 747 is right there. Impact. At 14,000 feet, the IL-76's port wing slams into the Saudi 747's port engines. The force is cataclysmic. The 747's wing rips through the IL-76's fuselage, severing it in two. The 747's entire horizontal stabilizer is chopped clean off. Both aircraft disintegrate in a shower of burning jet fuel and debris. Just 15 miles north of the collision, a US Air Force aircraft is descending into Delhi from Islamabad. The pilot, Captain Timothy Place, sees something strange. A cloud to his right is glowing orange. Delhi approach. We saw something to our right. Looks like a big fireball. Looks like a big explosion. At first he thinks it's lightning, but the glow persists. He calls Delhi approach at 1312 UTC. We see two fires trying to break to our right about 4 miles to your northwest. At the same moment, the Delhi approach controller tries to raise both aircraft. Kazakh 1907, do you copy? Bam. Silence. Saudi 763, Delhi approach. Silence. He knows the worst has happened. The Saudi 747, a 340-ton aircraft, plummeted into a field near Dani Fogat. It left a massive crater. The wreckage was scattered for over 3 kilometers. The IL-76 crashed 7 kilometers away, near the village of Biroha. The black boxes are the truth tellers. The Saudi 747's units are sent to the Air Accident Investigation Branch, AAIB, in Farnborough, UK. The Kazakh IL-76's units are sent to the Interstate Aviation Committee, IAC, in Moscow. The data they contain will either confirm or refute the theories surrounding this disaster. After months of hearings, the Court of Inquiry, led by Justice R.C. Lahoti, delivers its final verdict. It is a landmark report comprising 46 findings and 15 recommendations. The court is unequivocal. The root and approximate cause of the collision was the unauthorized descending by the Kazakh aircraft to flight level 140 and failure to maintain the assigned flight level 150. But the court does not stop at the primary cause. It identifies 4 contributory factors that explain why the descent happened. Factor number 1, inadequate English language proficiency. 2, poor airmanship and lack of CRM. 3, casual attitude and lack of coordination, and finally, absence of standard callouts. However, the court uncovered a heartbreaking irony: a modern secondary surveillance radar, SSR, the exact technology that would have shown the controller the Kazakh plane's real-time altitude, was sitting fully functional just a few miles away at Air Force Station Arjangar. But because of a total lack of civil-military coordination, the civil ATC at Delhi was completely isolated from this military system. Had they been sharing resources, the civil controller could have looked at a screen, seen the unauthorized descent, and shouted a warning that could have averted the catastrophe. The report revealed a chilling fact. Despite its modern luxury, the Saudi Boeing 747 was not equipped with an airborne collision avoidance system, nor was the Kazakh YML-76. The court demanded that all public transport aircraft be urgently equipped with ACAS, also known as TCAS. Had either aircraft been equipped with this system, it would have issued a resolution advisory 30 seconds before the collision, ordering the pilots to climb. It alone could have saved 349 lives.